He does care deeply about what people say about him, and he is thin-skinned. So he will know, I suspect, what David Lammy said about him. But the other thing about Donald Trump is, he is sort of attracted to power. He understands power, or thinks he does, and he will know that Keir Starmer won a huge election victory, that he has a pretty stable majority now, I hope, and that if should Trump win on the 5th of November, then he'll be dealing with Starmer, Prime Minister Starmer, for some years to come.
Prime Minister Starmer, he was at the Labour Party conference. He flew to New York. He addressed the Security Council, and last night he had a big meeting. He met with Donald Trump at Trump Tower. He also took Foreign Secretary David Lammy with him, who has previously called Donald Trump a neo-Nazi sympathiser. But since then, he said that he would work with him in office. And to be fair, David Lammy has met with members of Donald Trump's team on his previous trips to Washington. Well, Trump certainly seemed very positive going into the meeting.
Well, I'm going to see him in about an hour, so I have to be nice, right? But I actually think he's very nice. I think he ran a great race. He did very well. It's very early, but he's popular, and I'll be seeing him, and I'll send you regards.
Well, let's now speak with Lord Darroch, Kim Darroch, who was the British ambassador to America between 2016 and 2019, which of course overlapped with Trump's presidency. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
So what do you think of this meeting? How do you think it went?
I would expect it to have gone pretty well on atmospherics and on tone. But I've noticed that unless I've missed stuff, not much has been said about the content. I guess Keir Starmer will have talked in particular about our concerns about what Trump says he will do on Ukraine. He may have talked about southern Lebanon and Gaza to see what Trump thinks about that. Whether they've talked about trade relations and Trump's plans to levy tariffs on all imports to America is another question. And I suspect that while Trump will have listened to the arguments that the Prime Minister put forward, he probably won't have said anything like, I've changed my mind on any of that kind of stuff. Though he'll have been polite and it will have been a cordial discussion, I'm sure, because it's to Trump's advantage that this meeting has happened. After all, he is being treated as, in effect, as a sort of president-elect, a possible president-elect. So it's good for his campaign and for his reputation that people like the British Prime Minister are going, as you say, to his home in Trump Towers to see him.
And as you say, not a huge readout from that meeting, although a government source said that the Prime Minister and Donald Trump discussed the long-standing friendship between the UK and the US and the importance of continuing to develop a strong and enduring partnership between the two countries. So quite sort of bland language there. Now, I mean, Donald Trump is known for having quite a thin skin. How do you think he will feel about people who have made pretty, out there comments about him, like David Lammy? Will he remember those comments? Will he forgive and forget, or will he have a long memory?
Look, if it's anything like it was during his first term, Aisha, there will be people around who will have briefed him what his visitors have said about him, because he does care deeply about what people say about him, and he is thin-skinned. So he will know, I suspect, what David Lammy said about him. But the other thing about Donald Trump is, he is sort of attracted to power. He understands power, or thinks he does, and he will know that Keir Starmer won a huge election victory, that he has a pretty stable majority now, I hope, and that if should Trump win on the 5th of November, then he'll be dealing with Starmer, Prime Minister Starmer, for some years to come. So this counts for him, and he will be interested to meet Starmer, interested in what Starmer says. I don't believe myself that he's a great sentimentalist, Trump, about the special relationship. Certainly, we didn't get any great concessions when he was imposing tariffs on European steel and aluminium during his first term. But he will recognise power. I think this is a guy I'm going to have to. It would be good to have a relationship with.
One of our listeners Toby says, Trump's own running mate called him America's Hitler, amongst many other insults. So I doubt he cares what Lammy may have said. That was sort of J.D. Vance back in the day. Look, Kim, you have been in the room with Donald Trump. You will have sort of spent time with him. What's he like in these meetings? Can he actually be quite charming? Can he be quite personable? Can he be sort of fun in these meetings?
Look, he's a big figure. He's physically big, and he is a big personality. He fills the room. He is charismatic. Generally speaking, when I was in the room with him, his advisors and officials seemed pretty frightened of him, and he dominated the talking. He's not a guy to follow a very sort of rigid set agenda, work his way methodically through an agenda. It's much more of a conversation, and it can spark off in all sorts of unexpected directions. So if you're thinking of working through your briefs, if you're the Prime Minister thinking of working through your briefs, it probably won't work out like that. He has a sense of humour. He makes jokes about people, quite often about some of the other leaders that he has met. He asks quite a lot of questions about how things are. Certainly when I was in Washington, he was very interested in Brexit, how Brexit was going, and actually rather critical of the way that the British government at the time was handling it. So, it's a lively and interesting conversation, if not in the style of some of the other conversations the Prime Minister will have with other leaders. It's quite different.
Oh, I have to say, it's absolutely fascinating, as you say. I'm sure there's a lot of kind of going off-piste as opposed to like methodically going through the agenda. Kim, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for your time. That's Lord Darroch, former ambassador to Washington, our man in Washington for many years.